Thank you very much for joining us. I'll start by maybe just quickly telling you why I ended up writing this book, CEO X Factor. As part of the work that I do, I've engaged with a lot of CEOs, and I must say, whenever you meet with someone who's been in business leadership and you sit and you speak to them and you pick their brain, there's just always such great nuggets to take away from every time I've had an engagement with the CEO. And the three CEOs to my right, I have met even before I started writing the book, and they're part of the reason why I decided that maybe I should put together a proposal for Jonathan Ball, my publisher, to write a book. So, to my immediate right, Junior Ngulube. He's the former CEO of Munich Re and of Sanlam, emerging markets. So, Sanlam outside of South Africa was essentially his territory. I met him maybe 10 years ago when I was starting in publishing. He was on the cover of one of my magazines. Sandra Crous, I met when we were doing the South African Professional Services Awards. She's been, sales is her area, so she knows how to sell. She's been selling, initially started off with VIP payroll, moved on to Softline when Softline acquired them. Then she moved on to Sage Africa, became the VP for sales, eventually became the MD, and then now she's with a fast-growing entity that's in the same space that's called Payspace. I'm using the term, yeah. And you probably know Dion Shango, became a partner at PwC at the tender age of 32. Also met him through the SA Professional Services Awards, became I think the first black CEO of PwC South Africa, and became also he's currently the Africa Senior Partner and CEO of PwC Africa. So I was really glad that they accepted the invitation to come through because I know them even before I wrote the book. So I know their stories, and I'm sure you're all going to agree with me once this session is over that they have some really great wisdom to share. I think we can welcome them. Thank you very much. All right, so let's start at the far end. I know some of the responses to the questions, but it's not for me, it's for them. The book is called X Factor to Success. So when I spoke to the three of you, Dion, when I spoke to you, the question I had for you was, what do you think is the X Factor to success now that you've gone through and been a CEO for almost, 2 decades now?
Casey, thank you very much. And really, it's wonderful to be here with the MBA students. Thank you very much for the kind invitation. My response, the MBA students might find a bit surprising in what I'm about to say. The thing about leadership or being a CEO is that, you get into this role with some preconceived ideas of what leading an organization is about. But very quickly, you realize that actually this individual called the CEO works more for everyone else than the other way around, right? That is, and I see Sandra nodding vigorously here, that is really, although counterintuitive, how I like to think about the X factor of being a CEO. It's about that realization that it's actually less about you, and we'll get to talking about the importance of setting a strategy and all of those things. It's less about you than what it is about creating the type of environment that is conducive to everyone else being inspired to bring the best and most authentic version of themselves to the workplace every single day, right? And that is hard work. It's work that involves setting and influencing culture. I mean, what is culture? And how do you know when the culture is right? Is that something you can feel? How long does it take? So for me, the essence of it, the CEO X factor, Casey, has to have at the heart of it principles of trust and authenticity. Without those two things, you will struggle to actually get to this incredible job of making sure you create and foster the right environment for everybody else to believe that they can give their best every single day. It's something that I learned already, having been asked to play a leadership role, but also something that I observed other leaders before me do very well. It's that innate ability to actually make people believe they can do something that is even beyond what they imagined they could do previously.
Awesome. Sandra?
I wanted to actually say that one of the leaders that I gained a lot of experience from, every time I spoke to that person, they made me feel as if I could literally conquer the world. And it gave me so much confidence, and I was never afraid to make mistakes. I was allowed to make mistakes and learn from them, and then obviously to correct fast. I think that's critical. And then something that I also think is key critical in terms of X factor is to be steady and sort of keep the calm in the business, because being the CEO, you can never allow your own emotions to get the better of you. And sometimes it is difficult because we're also human.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm an extremely passionate person and extremely energetic. And for me, it was quite difficult to sometimes accept the fact that if I'm going to work every evening till 10 and wake up at 5, colleagues will do the same and think I expect of it. So I had to tap down and switch off my laptop at 6 so that I could set a very good example, because burnout is a reality in today's business. Mm-hmm. So I think that for me is something that I wanted to add.
Awesome. Junior.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I've been here a few times. I think the last time was before COVID. I was still working at the time. Now I'm a pensioner.
Pension discounts.
Yes. I think it's a very broad question. Yes. And when I look back, I started working in 1981. I became a CEO in 2007. And when I look back, the career that I've gone through and the experiences that I've gone through, if I were to define one key factor, which I do mention in the book, it is courage. If there's one statement I would like to leave with you is, in terms of the role of the CEO, in my view, the role of the CEO is not to preside over the inevitable. The role of the CEO is not to preside over the inevitable, but to make happen what would otherwise not happen but for the actions of the CEO. So if you are appointed a CEO today and in 5 years' time the company is still the same as it was when you arrived, you really haven't done anything or added value or changed anything for the better. This is one of the reasons, in my experience, the most difficult thing to do is to take over a successful business, because then you must take it to the next level without messing it up. It's easier to take on a broken business, because if you can't fix it, you can always say, the damn thing was broken. But you've got more upside to fix it. So it is important, in my view, that this is clear in terms of why you are there. It takes courage. And then I come back, because I started working very early. I joined the Munich, then it was the Munich of South Africa in 1987. And I was the agricultural insurance specialist for Southern Africa, working for the Munich of South Africa. This was during sanctions. Apartheid was still alive and well. And then I covered the rest of Africa for the parent company in Germany. Now you picture this. Black guy, based in the Harare office, chief agricultural underwriter. Two of my main clients was Central US in Fixbeck. And the other one was Commercial Union Agricultural Services in Bloemfontein. I used to go to Bloem, meet with my business partner, Vili Foslo, great guy, and then I would drive 63 kilometers to Tabanchusan, which was a homeland, because there was nowhere else in Bloem that I could stay. Fixbeck was the same. Dr. Ivan van Rijn was my client. He headed up Central US at the time, the largest crop insurer in South Africa. I would meet with him, have lunch in the boardroom. It took me a year to realize why we always had lunch in the boardroom, because he couldn't take me anywhere. And then I would drive to Maseru. That's where I would stay. Munich Re of Africa at the time was literally the only company that employed African people in senior positions. Now, put yourself in that situation. You are young, I think I was 29, 30. You now have to deal with these challenges. You now have to actually deliver results for your employer. This is where I believe courage is required. And for me, it's different from bravery, because courage is a very internal thing. You are fighting your own fears, your own self-doubt. And trust me, even as CEO, you have those moments. You still have those battles within yourself. So I might speak too long, tell me.
No, I'm attentive.
So how then do you prepare yourself for if you are lucky, to end up in the top floor? In my case, I opted to do other roles in the company. Besides being an agricultural specialist, I spent 5 years in that role. Then I realized, Casey, that if I stick to being a specialist, I might end up the world's top agronomist, but never be CEO. So I got involved with strategy, because one time I shot off my mouth to the CEO and criticized the fact that we have strategy meetings every year, but I've never seen any of it implemented. Then he says, JJ, if you feel strongly about it, do something about it. And it started as a part-time role. I coordinated the strategic planning sessions for the business, pushed for implementation, pushed for the restructuring of the business. We restructured the Munich Re of Africa with the CEO then. It became a full-time job. A year later, I was appointed head of strategy and human resources. Well, what did I know about human resources? So I used to say to my colleagues that because of my experience with livestock, being an agricultural guy, I could also...
So humans and livestock.
Yeah, I'm kidding, but I had to learn. And then later on, I went into the non-South African part of Munich Re. We called it international business, mostly marketing. I had to learn. I came back and then I was in charge of the South African business. I had to learn. I went to Munich for 2 years, where I headed up a global IT project. We're rolling out a global data warehousing infrastructure. And then I came back in 2007 and became CEO. So each time I took on different roles, I had to learn. And this is when I understood that it is courage that you need. You know it will be difficult. You know you might fail. You know you'll have failure along the way. But once you overcome that fear, and once you are in it, you realize that it's actually not impossible. So yes, that's how.
So I've had courage, but I've also had learning. So
It's learning.
clearly learning is a very...
Let me put it this way. You need to build new competencies as you go along. Don't well, if you want to be a specialist, it's fine. But you have... I've worked across the entire spectrum of Munich reinsurance in my time. In my view, to be a good CEO, you don't need to be a specialist in everything. It's good to be a specialist in something, whether it's finance or whatever, but you got to have exposure
to
the other aspects
of the business.